During the COVID pandemic, probably the safest way to holiday is in a caravan. We went to settle in North Yorkshire. Next to the site is Langcliffe High Mill, a cotton mill dating from 1783 which now makes paper. The mill pond that used to drive the machinery is still there, and the overspill feeds into the River Ribble. Beyond that are former mill workers' cottages, known locally as the Locks. Just past here is the River Ribble and the weir which feeds water into the mill pond. A narrow path leads to a railway footbridge, great for watching trains on the Settle to Carlisle line. The Staycation Express is a scheduled tourist train which runs 3 times a day from Skipton to Appleby and back. This was closely followed by the Dalesman, an occasional steam special bought today by the Scots Guardsmen. The path continues to Langcliffe. Driving up the main road, it's very easy to miss the village, but it's well worth a stop. It dates back to before the Domesday Book of 1086. In the mid-18th century, cotton was spun in the local mills, but woven in family homes. The population declined in 1881 when the cotton mill closed down. Overlooking one of the finest village greens in the north, the Church of St John the Evangelist, built in 1851, is surrounded by well-tended grounds. Inside, there's an attractive stained glass window. A narrow road from Langcliffe gives views over Malham Tarn, a glacial lake and one of only 8 upland alkaline lakes in Europe. It then crosses the high ground before descending through a glacial valley into the village of Arncliffe. Motoring up Littondale, we saw an interesting display that a farmer's made to raise money for Wellchild UK. The road ends at Foxup. The Foxup Beck and Cosh Beck join to form the River Skirfair just outside the hamlet. A short distance back down the road at Halton Gill, a local lady was selling coffee from a horse box. From here, another road heads back over the hills and rejoins the Ribble Valley at Stainforth. We cross the river over the old Packhorse Bridge dating from 1675. A short walk along the river brought us to Stainforth Force, a series of cascades where salmon leap in October. We decided to follow part of the route of the settled Carlisle Railway and drove up the Ribble Valley, passing Pennygent at Horton in Ribblesdale. We continued up the road, crossing into Cumbria, until we saw a long row of parked cars at Ribblehead, famous for its viaduct. A gravel track to the west of the junction gives views over the whole area and leads to Ribblehead Station. Like many stations on this line, it's nowhere near any village or town, because the line follows the high ground and all the villages are in the valleys. It does, however, serve walkers visiting Ingleborough. The ridge it runs along is so narrow that there isn't room for two platforms in the same place, so one is a little further down the line. The road deviates from the line at Ribblehead, so we had to drive round to Stonehouse to rejoin it. From here we saw old barns and dry stone walls above Dent Viaduct. Just where the road goes under the line there's a pull-off where we were just in time to see a local train go over the viaduct. Along the valley is Cowgill Bridge. We crossed it and parked at the other side. Here we were greeted by a very friendly hen. Within moments another appeared, then a whole flock of them arrived and tried to work out our position in the pecking order. We climbed into the hills again with views towards the Lake District. We re-entered North Yorkshire at Garsdale Head. At Aysgill the road crosses the railway again and the Staycation Express was on its next run north. A little further on we came to St Mary's Church at Malastang, which has probably been here since the 14th century. It was rebuilt in 1663 by Lady Anne Clifford, who owned the nearby Pendragon Castle, reputed to have been founded by Uther Pendragon, father of King Arthur. It stands on a mound at the side of the River Eden and was actually built in the late 12th century. The castle was set on fire by invading Scots in 1341, rebuilt in 1360, left in ruins by another fire in 1541, and restored by Lady Anne Clifford in the mid-17th century. After her death in 1676, it gradually fell back into ruin. Just before Kirby Stephen, we turned back and drove down Birkdale, following the edge of the river before going over the hill and down towards Kells. Just past Keld we came to Swaledale Yurts, which you can hire for a few nights in the Dales. We then went over the Buttertubs Road and enjoyed the views before going down to Hawes. From here we went back to Ribblehead and back to the site via Pennygent.